Okay, go.
Hello, my name is Ken. I'm from Delaware, W8KWH. And this is our first presentation of the new Union County Amateur Radio Club. And we're doing something like this every meeting for the fun part. Does anybody in here know about Echolink? Show hands. Okay. Does everybody have, or what people have, a Echolink validated call? Okay, that's good. Looks like just about everybody. This is the home page for Echolink, and it's introducing ecolink.org. That's where you would go to, and you'd find this page. And there's a lot of tabs. This will help you through. There's a FAQ section. But the most important thing, you have to be validated. And what's it take to be validated?
An official copy of your license. Okay,
that's current. And that's what the second page of this handout is. That's just go to the Universal Licensing System. And there's a place where you can type in the call. It'll come back, and there's a place where you can check for reference copies. Let's see if I got that here. And that'll take you to a place where you can validate. In order to validate, actually, to get to that page, it's you click the download one. Right there, download. And you'll put your call sign in, your email address. And that'll take you over to a place where you can download if you want to install it on a PC. Or if you don't want to install the software, go ahead and download just to have a copy of it. But if you're using a smartphone, does everybody have a smartphone? Okay. There's apps for Apple, iOS. There's apps for Android. There's apps for Linux for PCs, as well as Windows and Mac. On a Mac, Eric, it's EchoMac is the software for Echolink. And they're all on the internet.
EchoMac or EchoHam?
EchoMac is one I've been using.
Okay.
Okay. Is there another one out there maybe?
I don't know. I haven't been successful putting it on my Mac yet, so I might have been trying to use the wrong thing.
Okay. But the iOS version, if you have an iPhone or an iPad, you can use that on those also. It's actually easier to set up a portable device than a PC, right, Paul? Paul and I have been fussing with this for, 6 months, something like that. And you still have to have a validated call, but there's no special computer settings. If anybody's tried to install on a PC from your home and you're going through your wireless, then you have to get through your firewall to be able to talk in and out of it. And there's 3 settings, and all these things are located in the FAQs on the Echolink. Now Ed found a site, and this was the VA3XPR. It's a Toronto repeater group. And they had a presentation on IRLP and Echolink. We're just doing the Echolink part. And then down the road, when we get your Linux box set up with IRLP, then we can have a meeting on that. So back in 2002, this guy named Jonathan Taylor, and that was his call sign back then. It's not his call now. But he was the one who designed Echolink. And he's done that ever since then. He's the one that's designed the portable apps, and he's still working on a lot of updates. So, but this is the guy who created it, and it allows you to communicate through the internet into a computer, into 2-meter. There's a lot of Echolink users all over the world. In fact, there's probably more around the world than there are here in the States. But when you log on, you can search for any of the active sites by United States, call area 8, or you can look up different other things, like if you're looking for a repeater, or if you're looking for a link, which is maybe a simplex. You have a computer at home, you want to tie that to your own simplex FM radio, you can do that. And they also have a thing called conference servers. And those are the fun ones that the conference servers. There's one for, I was telling Rob about this earlier, there's one for NASA. You can listen to the International Space Station. You can listen in. There's one called Do Drop-In, which is just a conference that a bunch of people will log into. If anybody's ever watched Ham Nation on Wednesdays at 9 o'clock, they're on the internet. After the Ham Nation show, they have a conference, Ham Nation conference. You can log into that and exchange, what you thought about the show. We've tied in a repeater, and I was telling Rob, because I heard the tone coming from his phone. I said, "Oh, you have Echolink." I said, "Do you know we have our repeater tied into it?" Wow, that's pretty neat, huh? But he had it already set up, but he didn't know that we had a repeater tied into it. Now that's an ongoing thing right now. It's at my house, and eventually there's going to be a Linux computer that Ed's setting up that'll have Echolink as well as IRLP, and it'll probably operate even more responsive than going through my PC. Links, you're just tying into a simplex radio. Say you want a 4.9 link, and you can broadcast your radio through a 4.9 simplex frequency. Has anybody ever done cross-banding on a 2-meter to use your handy-talkie? Okay, what does that do for you, Ron?
Well, it extends your range. So I live out in the country, and my handheld is spotty getting into the repeater. So I'm outside, I can go through my base station.
And that's the same thing Arnold's doing over at the Honda plant.
Yeah.
And it allows you to extend your range. So if you consider Echolink as the same thing, but instead of going through your radio or HT, you're just going through your telephone, your cell phone, smartphone, and you'll go and put an app on here, the Echolink app, and you'll be able to tie into our repeater and do a two-way conversation of this. Now, I think it was 6 or 7 months ago when I put the app on my phone, somehow I was up at Menards and I bumped the icon. I didn't even realize what I did. It was in my pocket. And of course, their repeater was set up to identify whoever linked into the repeater. And this was the Mount Vernon repeater, the one that Ed's familiar with. And all of a sudden, I heard my call come out. The guy was calling me back. And I pulled my phone out, and I had never used it. So I hit the transmit and ended up talking to this guy probably for about 15, 20 minutes through the repeater of Mount Vernon. That was what, K8EEN? Is that their repeater?
Yeah.
That was their main repeater they had already set up. Now Gary over in Delaware, KE80, he has this set up through his 440 repeater. And there's other things that he can do too through a thing called IRLP, which we're not talking about tonight. But he can bring up a server in New York State, and then anybody that can get into Gary's repeater can talk to anybody that's listening to the repeater in New York State. But it's repeater to repeater, and we're just going from our smartphone or a laptop like Paul has, and we're linking into the computer, and then we're either going to go through another repeater. We can listen in and talk on a conference. When Ed was in New York State on vacation, we were trying to coordinate HF frequencies. We were trying to connect up. So direct user to user, we were able to talk from our computers, Paul's laptop, and Ed had his smartphone, and we were telling, let's try this frequency, but we were able to communicate directly. This is before the repeater was tied in, so we were just talking point to point. There's a lot of uses for it. Now, there's a lot of people that, oh, this isn't really ham radio. Well, you're still going through ham radio. If you didn't have ham radio, this wouldn't work. And to get validated, you must have a valid amateur license. So it's not like a walkie-talkie or anything, but it's actually something that links an electronic device like this into a computer and into a radio. There's a lot of radios that are real good for Echolink if you want to set up a repeater link or a simplex link. And you could use a USB signal link. What's the box that West Mountain makes?
Rick Blaster.
Rick
Blaster. We tried that with another radio, but it was so touchy. Paul and EMA has the TMD V71, which is EchoLink ready, which means it has the built-in sound interface and it has the control circuitry, and it was so much easier to set up. I couldn't get it to work using a signal link because it was just so touchy, all the settings. And then Frank's got a more deluxe version of the Kenwood.
The D710.
And that'll do even more, but it's still Echolink ready.
Exactly.
So if you're looking for a radio in the future, the Kenwood V71 is probably the most economical way to do it.
Yeah, they're not all that expensive now. I think about 300 or so.
For the V71, mine was 600.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it had EPRS on it.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of radios that you could use. This just goes just an Echolink conference, and you can conference from a smartphone to somebody that's on a laptop, somebody's on an HT. And that's just other things that are interesting. You can look down when you get to the menu on all the stations. There's a lot of stations in foreign countries. You can limit what you save as a favorite. And you need first download and install the Echolink software. If you got a Mac, you use EchoMac. If you got a PC, you use the Echolink. If you got a smartphone, you just go to the App Store, run.
I'm a little confused. Why would you need a radio, like a mobile, that's Echolink ready? I mean,
if you want to set up your own simplex or repeater.
Set it up as
Yeah.
Echolink. Okay.
But if you just want to talk and utilize the system that's already in place,
Okay.
you can just use the PC software, use the app that's on your phone. You don't have to set up one.
And you can also get into Echolink from your radio in the car. And I'm not sure, have we really decided why that's, is that a good feature or?
Well, Gary over in Delaware, from his touchtone pad, going through his repeater and his Echolink, he can punch in my node number, which is like a 5-digit number. He goes star, the node number, star, and that'll link his repeater into our repeater. So he can be driving around in Delaware. He doesn't always have good coverage. He'll talk to his own repeater, which is talking to Paul's repeater
via the internet.
Yeah, and I guess one of the main things that the advantage there is that you can drive around in a car. You're limited driving or an HT to the repeater range. But if you go into Echolink, you can drive around and talk to somebody in Europe or Russia or Florida or any place. And one of the main reasons that I wanted to get Echolink set up here on our repeater is and we only have one right now, a snowbird that's down in Florida in the wintertime, and he could come join in to our net, on Thursday night with, by way of Echolink. So, and it has, some other, and if you're on vacation, who wants to, talk to a bunch of us guys that, when you're on vacation, but it's just it's a thing that we can do, and why do we want to do it? Because we can do it.
It's like when Doc goes to the Outer Banks. He never got there this part,
Right.
end of the year because of family things. But he can go there if he wants to participate in the net on Thursday night, if he just wants to listen in to see what we're talking about, if we're talking about him. If Arnold would ever put that on his computer, then he can listen to what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mentioned that to him on his trip this week. He goes, Echo what?
And Bob NAGU, I mean, he's retiring, so he's going to be going, all over the country. So, and he's, I think, looking forward to, being able to do that too. So.
Just like when Ed was on vacation, we used it to coordinate, HF frequencies. There's also another thing on Echolink. There's a place you can type in text and send a text to the other person. So I don't think we've ever tried that, have we, Paul?
No. Is that word?
On the bottom right.
Okay.
I've done that.
Yeah.
If
what's his name? He's on ECARS a lot, and yeah, I did that with him. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And you've done that, Eric?
If you're on a net, usually there's some structure to it, right? If you want to throw something out there, you can just type that in that box on the right side, and it's almost like a chat
A flag,
session
yeah.
at the same time that there's a discussion going on.
That'd be kind of handy.
Like I said, it'll do all different types of devices, no matter what you have. And all the apps are free. So, and the download for Echolink, the only cost is you have to have a ham license, and that's free. So as far as getting the download.
And the cost of a PC or an Android.
Who doesn't have one these days, though?
Now, when you set up initially the software, say you do it on a PC or you do it on a laptop, generally you want to set it up for a single user, computer user. What sysop is for is if you want to set up a tie-in to a repeater or a tie-in to a simplex radio, there's other controls that you would check there, but normally you'll just sign up for a computer user alone. And most people should be using it on either cable or wireless that's got decent speed. If you've got spotty 1X or 3G, it may not hook up right. It'll be choppy and
Hence why the repeater, the Echolink's not in my house.
and you're consuming bandwidth, so you'd have to pay for it if you had to do that. And when you're installing it, you're going to have you put your call in and your password that you set up when you validated, and just put your name, address.
Are you picking this off of the website? Is this all on the website?
Yeah, it's actually on the
Okay.
that Echolink.
When you go through that
all the
those
steps.
steps.
And if you just do a Google search, there's all kinds of people that either do YouTube videos on Echolink, or this was a PowerPoint presentation that the Toronto Repeater Group put on.
Okay.
Ed found that for me, so I thought I'd use that.
And that's the L and the R, right? What we're into right here is the R.
When you first sign up, you'll log in as just your call, and that's a single user. Now, if you're planning on using it with a repeater or as a link to a simplex radio, you don't have to revalidate. You just request a -R, -L, and say, what's your password? And it'll revalidate you and say, you validated all three types. Regular call sign as a single user, link or repeater as a sysop. That's what the sysop means. You're running your own what they call node.
If you change your license, you have to revalidate.
I would guess so, because it has to be current.
I'm telling you, you do.
Did you have to change yours?
License or call sign?
Your call sign.
Okay.
Do you have
Yeah.
experience with that?
I have experience in that.
And let's see, what is this here? On a smartphone, what you usually set up on the settings on a smartphone is use what they call a network connection relay. And that's the best way to tie in. If you're having troubles getting in, there's also proxy settings. What a proxy setting will do, there are certain proxies, these are radio stations and calls, that are set up to accept traffic back and forth. And you can actually, Paul, on your laptop, if you check that box and find an active proxy, and there's like a dozen in Columbus, then you don't even have to have your firewall opened up. You can go through the proxy instead of going through your internet wireless. And that's also if you have a bad internet wireless at home.
So you do it over the air, over the radio instead
well,
of...
you would go through your 3G or 4G LTE, but the handheld devices don't have the problems with setting up a firewall. That's to pass the signals in and out. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then you can hear what's coming in, but when you try to talk and send out, they won't hear you. And this is what everybody has a router on their computer at home, right? And they have what's called port forwarding. And there's 3 ports that have to be set up. You have to open up. It's 5198, 5199, and 5200. 5200 is a TCP port, which lets you hear. And then 98 and 99 are UDP ports that let you send out. That if you've never had to do port forwarding, that's something you need to look. You have to go into your router, get into your router menus, and there's settings you can change on that.
That was 98, 99, and what's the other one?
9200.
5200.
52.
Yeah. But those are all on the Echolink site as far as the firewall settings and stuff. Like I say, if you're just going to do it with your smartphone or tablet, it's so easy because you just put in your call and hit the relay as the type of internet, and you're already on. You don't have to worry about the firewall settings. There's the settings, 5198, 5199, those are UDP settings. And you have to know your local IP address, not your outside address that hooks to the internet, but your local router is set you up as. In this case, it's 192.168.1.25. Yours is whatever it is. But that's what you're opening up ports. And then 5200 is a TCP port for that same internal IP address. And what's a good way to find out what your internal IP address is? You can't say, what's my IP, because that'll give you your external.
Yeah, if you're on a Windows machine.
IP config, isn't it? So
yeah, if you hit the Windows key, and R will open the run dialog box, and then type in CMD, and it'll bring up a command window like a DOS prompt. And if you type in IP config there, it should display what your internal IP address is.
And that's what you have to forward, your internal address through those 3 ports to get in and out. Years ago, before I even knew about Echolink, I had a thing called a sling box. It's a video thing. And I just was crazy because you had to port forward to be able to have the internet talk back and forth between your computer, and your router blocks everything. And that was the hardest thing. I mean, it was frustrating. You thought this was frustrating, Paul. It was even more frustrating back 5 and 10 years ago with that. Like I say, you can make your calls through a smartphone, tablet. You can do a Mac. Their screen looks a little different, but generally it's does the same things. Normal PC, this is a screen. And you can either set up in the software, right up here there's settings. You can say you want your space bar to be your momentary key to key the radio up, key the radio down. Or there's a little lightning thing up here in the corner that you can click on as a manual push to talk. And if you're having troubles getting that set up, just use the manual push to talk. And that was it.
There's a test server that you can go in to check your audio, how your audio's sounding, so you can talk into it. And then it's, what is it called, the test server?
Echo test.
Echo test server.
Because the levels that you set, and to set your levels on your sound card on a PC, is you go down to the bottom.
The Union County Club Net is every Thursday at 8 p.m.
That's coming through Echolink.
Catch you on the net. 73 from M8IG.
Down here, this little speaker, right-click on that, and that'll bring up some sound settings. It'll be either playback or recording. Click on that, and you'll, I can actually do that here. So, I right-click on it. Playback devices. This is for the speaker. You go properties, and you can set the levels. You know, this was set at 100%, but it's very critical because I don't know if you remember when Arnold was saying, Paul, you're way overmodulated, and that's where you have to back off these settings. And on some of them, there's a gain setting, +5, +10 dB boost. You don't want to use a lot of boost because that'll just give you too much audio. You'll have hot audio and you'll be way overmodulated. So that's what you use that test server for. You'll go in there, hit Echo Test, and the guy will come back and say, this is the Echolink Echo Test. Please feel free to use this as often as you want to. And then you click your space bar or the transmit button, you'll say something in it, and then you'll hit the button again to release, and it'll play back what you just said. And if it sounds like your audio is too hot, then you know you have to back it off. And the same way with the other setting for, there's one for playback and one for record. The record is how hot your mic is. The playback is how loud it comes back out, like your speaker. Those are the settings you have to get to make it sound good. Now on a smartphone, there's settings at the top. It'll say settings, and you'll hit that, and there'll be things like, what network connection do you want? Do you want relay, or do you want to use a proxy, or do you want to use direct? Relay is the most used. And there's another one called microphone gain, +0 dB, +6, +10, +20. Usually just bump it up one notch, +6 dB gain. And that's all you need for that. But right now, I'm on my Echolink at home, and you know, anytime Joe's message comes over, this thing will come up. And it sounded actually pretty good on it.
I sound that good?
Yeah.
Well, considering.
Well, don't you get tired of saying that all the time?
I do. It's the timing that kills me.
Getting up every hour at night is a pain.
And when you go to that test server and you talk into it, it'll show you the bar of how much modulation you're getting. So it'll give you an idea. And I made a mistake of I was getting too much and I was overdriving, so I was, set back further, and then I was getting an echo.
Yeah, because the automatic leveling control in the laptop, if you lower your voice, then it raises the gain, and all the background starts to come in.
Come on.
So
That's why they call it EchoLink.
Yeah, really.
And I didn't realize until, and I still didn't. I guess you can do it. You can connect to the test server and to somebody else at the same time. Didn't I? One time I was connected to the test server and I was talking.
I wanted to call you on the phone. Disconnect.
Yeah, and I couldn't, and I didn't know you could do it, but you can. So it's got a little thing up in the upper left-hand corner that you click to disconnect.
This is what it looks like on an iPad.
And you will be presented with a station list
This is the easiest way to hook up, is use a smartphone.
where you will be presented with the screen which shows Echolink test locations, is various locations around the world, as you can see. And you can go into one.
And Eric, you can put 5 land and talk to all the
various
people in
countries.
Texas.
If you go back, you've got node types. which gives you conference rooms, links, repeaters, independent personal users, lists of call signs around the world where you can link up to people independently, or should I say directly. It gives you recent QSOs. If you go along the bottom, you have settings, favourites, stations, text, QSO. If I just fire up favourites, I have stored one in. You just click on one of your favourites and you will be presented with this screen. I will connect to the W2NJR link repeater system by clicking connect.
From Atlantic City to Philadelphia to New York City and all points in between, you're connected to the W2NJR.
You can have a voice message, you can have no message, you can have...
Then you will be presented with that screen with the transmit button. If you hit the transmit button, you will be presented with the following screen. I'll do it briefly.
There's your mic.
Once you see the microphone on screen, you make your call and then you tap the microphone and it will disconnect you and you will hear stations coming back to you. It's as simple as that, using Echolink on an iPad.
And you have to ID. You know, you're really talking over the radio, not just the internet. So you have to ID every 10 minutes. You have to follow all the same rules. But this will allow somebody with a technician class license to talk all over the world if they wanted to, or all over the United States. You can also set up in the software, you can limit. I don't want any stations other than the United States. Or you can set up a list of all the people that, like say you have a club, you want to put in all the people that are club members to use that. Or you can exclude, you know, countries. It's pretty flexible. The guy's still working on a lot of changes, but this has been in development since 2002. Questions? Bob, did you have any questions since you already had it set up?
And Gary over in Delaware, KE80, he has his set up, but if you want to use his, then you need to have him put it in so that you can use it, because he's only allowing, you know, certain people to. And one of the problems, or one of the things that I want to make sure we don't run into here is have it where Echolink is up all the time. When we get it tied into the repeater so that Echolink could take over the repeater, so to speak, you know, so.
There is a latency problem where you can't hit that transmit button until it lights up so you can hit it, because there's just a split-second delay. If you ever listen to yourself when you're talking in your smartphone, then you hear your voice. So it adds that extra amount of latency. If you've ever heard Arnold talk about when he crossbands at Honda, he's got to wait till everything clears out before you start talking. So he's asked to have everybody, you know, pause a little bit longer than normal. Same way with Echolink. If you hear somebody logging in, you just say W8 SMK via Echolink. You know, make it known that you're talking through a smartphone, because then the people will listen and say, oh, I better, you know, wait an extra split second before I go back to him. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to hear you.
Who's N8OAK?
N8OAK. Jeff?
Oh, you from Maine?
Probably. That's where I am most of the time.
And if somebody is transmitting on Echolink, you can't transmit. You try to click on your transmit and it won't do anything. You have to wait until they're finished. As opposed to, like, if you're talking on your radio, you can, you know, you can go over them.
And through the software, you can limit 3 Echolink users at a time, 6 unlimited. You know, if it ever got to the point where, you know, too many people were just depending on that, then it's time to cut back the amount that could be, you know, connected via Echolink.
So the repeater is connected into the Echolink, so I can connect to it. Am I looking up UCO or N8IG?
Now, I have it set up
N8IG.
Temporarily under my call,
His-
KWH-R for repeater. But ideally, we would have N8IG.
It shows up on the list. Paul, NAIG does.
Yeah, that's his
that's-
either laptop
That's my,
or smartphone.
yeah, that's my Echolink.
Now, if you see somebody on your smartphone like Paul's, you can't click on it and connect to them. It's not like a walkie-talkie. It can only go through, like Paul had his laptop on one day. I went ahead and double-clicked on it for mine. And Paul said, I didn't connect. Why? So I connected to you because he was on. I can tell he was on. And, now, if you log out of the app, then if I double-clicked on his call, it would say not connected or offline or something like that.
So what's the consensus? You guys think it's a good idea, a bad idea? You see any problems, issues, or what do you think? What's the feelings?
Connecting Echolink
As far as having it
repeater.
with the repeater and, tied into whether we can,
Good idea.
I think it's a nice resource.
Well, we've had Ken's setup connected to the repeater for some time now, right?
yeah, but
Couple
it'll be different when we do it to the repeater. And that's what I want to make sure that
Okay.
we kind of limit it so that, we don't have everybody in the world coming in.
I had
Not that
somebody
they
from
would.
Germany try to log into it. And I have it set up not to accept anything that's outside the United States.
Uh-huh.
But there was a guy from Germany trying to log in on it.
Yeah, if you have they have the list of who's there, and people all over the world are punching those numbers for
And
sure.
that's why they have the settings where you can limit or expand who's on there.
And
Now,
that's-
Gary was having a problem over in Delaware. Somebody would key up and, kerchunk his computer all the time. And he got tired of doing that, so he made up a list. These were the people that are authorized to use it.
Right. If I punch on KWH in the list on Echolink, I'll get the repeater, right?
Right.
So,
For right now, yes.
So essentially, it is on the repeater.
Yeah.
Okay. Have we had any problems or issues with it so far?
No, but the word isn't out totally yet, I
Okay.
mean, it's not.
Well, sure, I know what you
But,
mean.
yeah. Anyway, and what it might turn out to be like, maybe we open it up or turn it on in the evening, from 6 to 10 at night, or, when somebody during nets or something like that. But anyway, the thing is to just be aware, and, what I want to do is make it to where it's good for everybody, and so we don't get any abuse or anything like that. So.
Now,
I just have a couple of thoughts on that, Paul. All of us travel around the state, out of range of the normal repeater range. And just the other day, I was going to do this when I went out to Roscoe Village, but I never got around to it. That is, just pull out my cell phone and log into the repeater, see if anybody wanted to know where I was, if you will. But, to talk on the repeater to the guys I always talk to. So, and it's very handy to be able to do that if you're out doing something. So I think we should just try unlimited or, restricted by geography if we don't want to hear from Germany, for example, or Russia or whatever. But just open it up and see what happens. You can always tone it down if we find out we're logging on at 7:30 during drive time and you can't use a repeater because there's 16 guys using for Echolink. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But we can always change the access.
Throttle it back as long as somebody's there, like Ken now, to where he can turn it down.
Right.
If we have it set up at the repeater.
Yeah.
Then it has to be controlled, As long as it's at Ken's, Ken can control it.
Right.
Ed can control it. At my place, it's not going to work because my
Yeah.
internet's so slow.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's just,
my recommendation, just for my own personal selfish benefit, is, 24-hour access, because who cares who's talking on it from midnight to 5
Until it
a.m. or
becomes a
whatever.
problem. Then
But,
address it.
but the rest of the hours, the busy hours when people would normally use the repeater, I would just leave it open until we find out there's a problem.
There's log files that I can access to see who and what time they accessed it.
Yeah.
And
I think Gary also, he has some contacts over in Great Britain that he has set up. So you can also do that if you happen to know somebody, or you can just open it up just for that one station as well as
Right. Yeah.
And who, if you hear a DM something from Germany or from Africa, or that's, I think everybody's going to jump on that and kind of say hello, start talking. So I think it's a good thing.
Can you, if you limit who can use it, can you also, and say in that list of users, limit the other, say, repeaters that can connect back into it? Okay.
Yeah,
you can block
limit it to conference servers, exclude them. You can exclude other repeaters. If I click that button, then Gary couldn't link into ours, but I have it set now to receive all.
Okay.
All users.
I mean, like if it came down to where there were some issues with it, and you wanted to, say, whitelist the people that could connect to it and use it, could you also in that whitelist include, say, like Gary's repeater?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I remember this accurately or not, but I think I recall that one of the issues with how many connections you allow on your Echolink has to do with computer capacity to handle. Like, you couldn't handle, really, the computer wouldn't handle 24 users connected all at once. You'd need a faster computer, or more memory, or whatever it takes.
I think that still is usable, 24. But if you get like 100 or 200, 300 people, I mean, it's just going to be unmanageable.
Well, a lot of I noticed a lot of the Echolink nodes limited to like 6 or something for some reason, and maybe they're popular, or maybe they don't have the capacity.
It could be they don't want, they don't want 100 people talking back and forth on the repeater, tying it up too.
And there's going to be some things that we are not aware of now.
Yeah, it's hard to anticipate those.
And they're going to, we're going to learn about them. So anyway,
when you're using it from your smartphone, it is using data when you're talking and listening.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. Now, if you're on your smartphone going through your home Wi-Fi, then don't worry about it.
Maybe that was the issue, was bandwidth that they have available on their Echolink. That they only have bandwidth to handle so many users.
Well, the limitations is your smartphone or your internet
No, the
speed.
repeater, actually the repeater Echolink node has a bandwidth associated with it, how much internet it can use.
It must be
Internet bandwidth. So
pretty powerful because there's a lot of
each
stations.
connection takes a certain amount of bandwidth. And so that's why they're limiting it. And I don't understand it beyond that, but I don't know. I think Paul's right. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to learn about that. What works and what doesn't.
I mean, you could use it on a slower internet if you want to limit to 1 or 2 users.
Right.
But you don't want to have 100 users if you're on a slow DSL or.
Right.
And what is it when I say something on mine? Is that my smartphone? That there's like a 2 or 3 second delay before it actually goes across.
Because the repeater node is actually sending a separate message out to each one who's connected to the Echolink thing. So that's each one that has its bandwidth that it uses.
Well, the internet's on a shared basis.
It makes a little more sense now when you start to think about it.
Any other questions? John, do you want to hook it up to your smartphone? You think? Yeah.
Maybe.
John.
I mean, even if it's just to listen in.
And it is kind of intimidating at first when you go through the settings. There's 3 different under the settings. There's 3 different menus.
Well, for individual users, there's 2. Here's
your
your main one, and then your.
So it can get a little intimidating for.
Well, that's not unusual. A lot of things we set up for ourselves are kind of sophisticated, and we have to learn to deal with the technical stuff.
That's the same message I get.
That's okay.
COM port in use or something, not that, but.
No, I've set up for a proxy and it's not available.
So, or correct me on this, Karen. because this was really kind of interesting. I can put my mobile radio, which is Echolink ready, in my car, and use my hand mic, which has got DTMF on it, and just set it in Echolink mode and DTMF the ID of the Echolink node that I want to connect to, and I should be able to do that.
If you have the code for that
Right.
node.
Okay.
Right.
And they let you in.
And, yeah.
Pardon me?
And they let you in.
And they let you in, right, okay.
As soon as you say I'm Frank, they're going to block you.
I don't need a computer, and I don't need an internet connection to do that. I can
But
just
and
put
you
a
don't need an
radio-
Echolink ready radio. You can do that with any radio with any DTMF.
Right, okay, good.
Yeah.
You'd have to be connected to or say
Repeater.
going through a repeater that's connected to
Echolink,
Echolink.
right. Okay, 'cause that's a neat capability to be able to do that.
That's the setup screen. That's one of the ones that you'll be looking at. To set up your station. You won't do any of the servers, but proxy if you want to use proxy or not. I don't know if there's any that I can connect to right now. Try that one. And here's where you'll set up your audio. You know, are you going to the sound card in the computer? And you got to have all those set up, be able to pass the audio in and out.
Now for the 71, what comes up there?
You're just using the internal sound card of the computer.
Of the computer. Okay.
Because the radio is providing the audio out and audio
Right.
in. And there's another thing here, it's called performance. Set that as low as possible. That's the amount of latency. Sometimes if you don't have a good connection, you know, you can move those sliders up, but then you'll have more latency. In other words, when you say something, it'll be a longer delay before it's put out into the air. So that's the first setting that most everybody will have on your PC. And the other one's preferences. And you can hide repeaters, hide links, users, conference servers. And then connections, you can allow conferences or not. You can set up your push to talk if you want to use the space bar, if you want to use the none. And security, this is where you can, whoa. Nice tones. Security. You know, here's where you can limit, accept these countries. You can accept calls from repeaters, links, users, or conferences. You can deny and have a list of stations you can deny. But those are the main two settings. There's another setting if you have, if you're set up as a link or a repeater, and those are additional what they call sysop settings. But normally you won't have to deal with those. I don't think we're connected right now. But you can put it on your desktop or you can put it on your laptop. The laptop, you usually use your built-in speaker and microphone. Or if you want, and you have two separate jacks, you can have a headphone with a mic, a boom mic. It's just as easy just to use the built-in stuff because there's one less thing to adjust. Ron, did you ever sign up for Echolink to get a validation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's been some time ago, but I tried to set it up on my desktop, and I had trouble.
With the firewall?
But with the cell phone, I was able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be easiest on the cell phone.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the
And
firewall.
I never went back to the desktop to try to figure out what was wrong.
Well, it says firewall settings.
Yeah.
Most likely that are blocking it. Or if you have an iPad that's got 4G LTE on it, you know, wireless, you can do that too. That's just like having a cell phone on your tablet.
I had a problem getting out on mine, and I just stumbled into the proxy server list and started clicking on proxy servers, and it's all of a sudden started working. Yeah, because you bypass them.
Now you can go to the Echolink main page that was on that handout, and you can go into the FAQs, and you can get to a place where it lists the current servers, and there's like a dozen in Columbus. Usually there's one or two in Columbus that are not busy. Most of the time they're all busy. But if there isn't one that's open, Then just scroll down, you may find one in Michigan, you may find one
Yeah,
in,
you can find one any place.
Yeah.
Now, that's the proxy server?
yeah. Instead of hitting direct connect, you'd hit, I'll show you where it's at here.
So how do you become a proxy or a,
I think you have to sign up somehow.
well, the reason I was asking that is if we can't get out here, or well, here, we're not here anymore, but if we can't get to the internet, and that's one of the problems, you know, we can get in, but we can't get out. So that's why we can't set up Echolink here, because of the port forwarding, and we're restricted for
So
security.
if you're trying to set it up down there at 720, proxies change all the time. So that
Okay.
wouldn't be a viable thing. It's just like if you have a laptop or a desktop that you're sitting there and you want to, you know, get in and you can't get through. You know, let's say you're using your smartphone as a hotspot and you're using your laptop, then you would use a proxy. But normally when you're hooked to your Wi-Fi at home, it'll be under direct connect, no proxy.
We're talking about running fiber out to the station.
That'd be awesome.
That was
720?
Yeah, that's on the list. So we'll have real internet access.
Mhm.
Without security? Gee.
Don't know about that.
You still have your router. Okay, that's all I have.
What's the difference between R and L?
Thanks, Ken.
Good.
One's a repeater and one's a link.
Okay. Ken, you have the NAIG one, or your KWH one, cabled into the internet, right? It's a hard connection. Now, could you make your node mobile if you had Wi-Fi access, for example?
Yeah, you could.
Say you want to take your computer over and sit in McDonald's parking lot and connect to Wi-Fi.
But the problem is, it's so picky on your sound card. It has to be what's called a full duplex.
Well, you
And
still
a
have
lot
your
of
same
laptops
equipment,
would-
you just put it in the car. Your
Yeah.
computer, you know, I assume it's a laptop or something. Just
In
take
theory,
your
you could
laptop
do it.
out of your car, drive to McDonald's, and connect through Wi-Fi. I'm just asking, would that work? I mean, you could do that, make it mobile.
As long as you have a good stream of fast Wi-Fi. I mean,
Right,
you know,
okay. Yeah, they got
Either
pretty
4G
fast Wi-Fi.
LTE or your McDonald's or.
Right,
What do you
okay.
need to do?
The other way to make it mobile would be with your cell phone hotspot. You could just set your cell phone in your car and connect then and have the same operation.
Yeah, but the speeds with.
See, I don't know if your
It's not
hotspot could.
consistent with hotspots.
Yeah.
It's usually
Okay.
not fast enough.
And that's what we'd run into. We got a fast speed down at 720 with that, what do you call that little box, you know, that we got down there. And what did I tell you the other day, we had like 15 up and